Hi guys, so we always knew that Brexit was going to be damaging to both the EU and the UK. Now the European Commission has carried out an analysis and they predict that by the year 2022, this Brexit deal, the free trade agreement, the one that Boris Johnson signed with the EU last December, is going to have a negative impact on the EU of 0.5%, half a percentage point. The impact on the UK will be 2.2%. Now, we have to remember that, and we have to contrast this with the language that Brexiteers, both within Boris Johnson's government and outside, and also Theresa May's government, for that matter, the language they were using was that Brexit would be damaging to the EU, and no deal Brexit would be extremely damaging to the EU. And for that reason, the EU would be desperate to get a deal, which in a sense they're right, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But the idea being that the UK held all the cards and Brexit would be a benefit to the UK. There would be sunlit uplands, as we've heard. Of course, the reality is different. So I think it's important to contrast the language and the information you're receiving from the British government and compare it to the European Commission. The European Commission is saying we're both taking a hit. The UK government, up until the end of last year, were saying everything is going to be great.
Yes, we have an average evaluation of this impact. And in our forecast, the exit of the UK and the FTA that we reached finally with UK implies an output loss of around half a percentage point of GDP until the end of 22 for the Union, and some 2.2 loss for the UK in the same period from now.
So I think it's important to remember that the EU did not want this. The EU had said at every turn, this is going to be a cost to the UK and to the EU. And of course, Brexiteers responded by saying, no, it's a cost to the EU. That's why they don't want us to leave.
Now to 2022. Just to give you a comparison, in the autumn forecast, which was based, as you may remember, on the assumption of no agreement and of WTO terms, the FTA reduces the negative impact on average by about 1/3 for the EU and 1/4 for the UK. So,
which is very interesting. So remember, Brexiteers were saying the EU are desperate for a deal because it would negatively impact them not having a deal. If the UK went out on WTO terms without a deal, it would be extremely negative for the EU. And they were actually correct. Yes, Boris Johnson's trade deal reduces the impact, the negative impact of Brexit by 1/3 for the EU, and it reduces it by 1/4 for the UK. So in a way, the Brexit deal helps the EU, well, reduce it. Nobody's benefiting here, but the negative impact is reduced by a much larger amount for the EU than it is for the UK. So when the Brexiteers were saying we hold all the cards and we have the EU over a barrel, in a sense, yes, but at the end of the day, Boris Johnson got his trade deal, and we're now seeing that the trade deal is having a bigger impact negatively in respect to GDP on the UK than it is on the EU. It's a strange turn up for the books, but we always knew that that Brexit in its entirety would be negative for both the UK and the EU. Brexiteers instead were saying, no, it's going to be a positive for the UK. So they were lying in this aspect, but they were actually telling the truth, or maybe it was not intentional, but yes, the EU would have suffered much more under a no deal Brexit. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons.
where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?